Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in strong support of Bill 203. I want to thank the member from Calgary-Glenmore for the Energy Storage Planning and Investment Act. Bill 203 is exactly what Alberta needs. It is practical legislation grounded in what engineers, market analysts, and system operators have shown us time and time again. Energy storage is a proven instrument for keeping the lights on, lowering costs for families, and unlocking the kinds of investments to create long-term, high-quality jobs for Albertans. And this is why my colleagues from across from us need to listen to the plan brought forward by the New Democrats, because Bill 203 is a roadmap for affordability, for reliability, and most importantly, to attract investments into our province. Madam Speaker, in January 2024, we've heard that this province came dangerously close to a complete blackout. As it turns out, it was battery-based storage, modest in scale but crucial, that helped stop the failure from becoming catastrophic. It is absolutely irresponsible and reckless for this government not to plan. It is foolish to continue this nonsense of relying on luck because it's not working. We need a policy that recognizes storage for what it is, a unique system that is a resource that can act like a reserve, a capacity asset, and a price-stabilizing broker all in one. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory, one of the world's leading independent technical bodies, has documented exactly this role. Storage supplies operating reserve increase capacity value. It smooths variability when we pair it with renewables like wind and solar. This improves system reliability. It's plain, it's simple. We need reliability. And it is common sense to diversify Alberta's beautiful economy and create simple legislation that outlines it and stabilizes our investments. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, it's about costs. Albertans are asking why their electricity bill keeps bouncing up and down, and the answer lies in how we produce and how we move and price our electricity. Storage lets us buy or capture low-cost energy at off-peak hours and then release it at peak demand hours. Economists and market modelers have shown that well-designed storage deployment reduces peak prices, mitigates the price spikes, and lowers wholesale costs over time. And furthermore, Madam Speaker, work by leading energy economists have demonstrated how storage arbitrage, meaning the strategy of buying electricity when prices are low and storing for use when prices are high, all of this increases the effective value of renewable generation and reduces net system costs when markets and compensation mechanisms are set up properly. Bill 203 is designed to do exactly that, enable the market to capture those value streams. It is obvious to our team and the member from Calgary-Glenmore who brought this bill forward that the government must review this, because in our collective of a century of work in this field, we have observed and heard from experts that there are real, fixable regulatory barriers that make for today's reality make storage less economic than it actually should be. For years, energy storage assets were charged transmission fees, both when they were charged and again when they discharged, once as a load and then once as a generator. So a double penalty that makes investment very unattractive. It's not good policy, and it's a legacy distortion. In the United States of America, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and many technical regulatory reviews across the world have recommended clarifying the rules so storage can participate as a dual asset without being penalized twice. The Biden administration allocated $500 million in research to advance long-duration energy storage, a strategic investment into energy and minerals and industries. Alberta has to catch up. Bill 203 directs Alberta's system operator and regulators to correct exactly these market and fee anomalies so storage can compete fairly. That is a targeted, evidence-based fix. The beauty of this bill is that it's not a giveaway, not a subsidy. It is simply creating a level playing field. That's what we're creating. And Madam Speaker, this bill is an investment magnet. Private investors, project developers, and battery manufacturers to firms that produce critical minerals and components. They are the future, and it is dependent upon the clarity of our procurement, dependent on the clarity of our market rules, of our grid modernization, and obviously the investment will follow once we are clear about these. So when governments give clear, predictable signals about procurement, market rules, and grid modernization, investment follows. Madam Speaker, that is how you build a high-volume manufacturing and long-term operation jobs in communities across our beautiful province. Peer-reviewed research on storage, business models, and on green industrial strategies shows over and over again that properly structured policy spurs domestic creation jobs and supply chain development. And Madam Speaker, this is precisely the outcomes that our province desperately needs. Bill 203 is written to ensure that local First Nations and Métis communities can participate. Modern energy projects must be done with communities, not to them. Nothing about us without us. Bill 203 requires early, transparent consultations so that Indigenous businesses and nations can participate in ownership, supply contracts, and shared benefits. Upholding FPIC, free, prior, and informed consent, in good faith is nothing without standards laid out by the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It is good public policy and simply just good politics to operate in good faith. It helps projects go up faster with fewer disputes and more broad-based benefits. Some will claim that we don't need a plan. That is irresponsible. That the market alone can force delivery on storage. But markets do not correct for legacy rules or for signal certainty to long-term manufacturers. The record from jurisdictions that have invested in storage planning, like Australia, like China, it is clear. Targeted policy plus regulatory fixes unlocks deployment at scale. Facts are, at COP29, delegates made a pledge to commit to a collective goal of deploying 1,500 gigawatts of energy storage in the power sector globally by 2030. That's more than 6 times the level of 2022. And to pursue efforts towards such a goal as this means establishing policies that enable regulatory frameworks that facilitate the adoption of energy storage and supports so we can meet the storage target and address the barriers faced by storage projects, including this double taxation that exists. Madam Speaker, peer-reviewed research and studies demonstrate that storage is most valuable when it is treated as a system resource and when markets value the full suite of services it provides: energy, capacity ancillary services, and transmission distribution deferral. Bill 203 does what is necessary to create stability. It is asking this UCP government to actually create a plan to remove irrational fees and to create procurement pathways so private capital can commit with confidence. Bill 203 improves system reliability so families don't fear cold snaps turning into blackouts because it's dangerous. It helps stabilize bills so small businesses and households can budget. It fixes the regulatory barriers that have kept investments on the sidelines. And it creates conditions for new jobs, for First Nations and Métis full participation. It does all this by giving the systems operator and government the tools to plan and modernize, not micromanage markets, but by removing the obstacles that have kept storage from competing fairly. I urge this UCP government to support Bill 203, to show Albertans, to show investors, to show industries, to show First Nations and Métis communities that Alberta has a plan. Thank you.